a couple of people in here. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and want to take an opportunity to learn. I don't think anybody who is supposed to be presenting their pitch is in. So hopefully at the end of this, they join in and they can give their pitch. If not, we got more time to answer questions in that sense. So we'll get started. Those of you, I would assume most of y'all know me if you see my video. I'm Xavier, aka the cameraman, and
Hey, you can mute him. You can mute him.
yeah, can everyone go on mute?
You,
Make sure
yeah,
everyone
you just
is.
click on him and mute him.
There we go. All
Yeah.
right. So y'all all know me as the cameraman or Xavier. I've talked to some of y'all, a couple of y'all. I've worked with some of y'all, and I want to give this opportunity to have people learn, get an opportunity to learn about selling films, the business of film, because we all want to create, but we have to give ourselves a reality check and realize that we have to actually make money doing this eventually. So partner with my own professor, Jeff Deverett, and he's going to be talking about a lot of the stuff like that. And there is a lot of questions that came in that that I'll prompt up later on after his presentation. And if the people that are supposed to pitch join in, then I'll have them do their pitches. If not, we will figure out what to do from there. So, Professor, I'll let you give your introduction from there.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Zay, thanks for having me. So my name is Jeff Deverett. I live in San Diego. I teach at San Diego State University in the film and TV department. I also teach at UCLA Extension. So Zay was one of my students, a good one. And I teach all of the business aspects of making a film. So, meaning I don't teach the fun artistic stuff that most of you are probably interested in. I teach, so the fun artistic stuff is directing, acting, sound, lighting, the crafting of a film. I teach the business side, which is how to get the financing to make your movie. Because I can assure you of one thing, if you don't have money, you're not making a movie. And number two, after you get your financing and you make a great movie, how do you sell it and get the money back? So those are really important things. Now, at San Diego State, I also teach how to budget for a movie, how to schedule a shoot, a feature film shoot. And I focus on independent filmmaking as opposed to big budget Hollywood stuff. So most of my focus is on budgets of $1 million or less. Some of you will make what I call micro budget films, which will be for $100,000 or less. But regardless of the budget level, it's all about your ability, your talent ability to make a good film. So today we're going to assume that you know how to make a good film. And if you don't, Zay can tell you how to do that. He's a good camera guy, he's a good editor, he knows the craft of filmmaking. All right. But assuming that you make a good movie, what the heck are you going to do with it afterwards? That's the key thing, because I can tell you something that most filmmakers who make good movies more or less do nothing with their movies, not because they don't want to, it's because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get distribution. They don't know how to find a distributor. They don't know how to negotiate a distribution deal. They don't know even where movies get distributed or how much money they make. It's so most filmmakers say to me, and by the way, I do three things, all right, in my life. Number one, I am first and foremost, I'm an independent filmmaker. So as Zay said, I have made 9 feature films so far. 3 of them were sold to Netflix worldwide. All of them got distribution. All of them are in the budget range of the lowest budget was about 600,000. The highest budget was 1.2 million. So in those budget range, no big actors, no major names or anything like that. I like sports dramas. That's primarily what I work on. So first and foremost, I'm a filmmaker, and I wrote and directed 5 of them. So artistically, I'm very involved in the filmmaking process, doing what you probably want to do, like write and produce and direct an independent feature film. So I've done that many times, and I enjoy that a lot. So that's one of the things I do. I make movies. All right. Number two, I'm a consultant. So I do a lot of paid consulting for independent filmmakers worldwide who struggle with learning how to get their films financed and distributed. So raising the money for their films is a whole art. And actually, Zay took a course, an advanced course at San Diego State that I teach called producing, which is how to do an investor pitch deck, invest and actually pitch to actual investors, which he did with his group, and raise money for your film. And then I teach an advanced course in how to sell your film. So I do a lot of consulting to independent filmmakers on how to do those things. All right, how to raise money and then how to sell their films after the films have been made. All right. And then so I'm a filmmaker, I'm a consultant, and of course I'm a teacher. So I teach, like I said, at San Diego State and at UCLA, in the filmmaking division, film and TV department, but I teach the business side. So I also teach at UCLA. I teach media law, how to do all the contracts and all the financing contracts, the distribution, all the production contracts, which is there's a lot involved in that. And budgeting, scheduling, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very, very versed actually in independent filmmaking. Now, actually, yesterday, I did an interview for CBS News here in San Diego where I live. So CBS News called me up because one of the producers, Zay, is one of your former classmates, Rachel Franklin. She's a producer now at CBS News. And they were doing a story on one of the big stories yesterday, which you may have heard, that Netflix bought Warner Brothers, which is a gigantic deal, $83 billion deal, a game changer in the film industry. So I was asked to comment on that deal and how it's going to change sort of the independent film landscape and what to look out for and that type of thing. So I'm very involved in the industry. I'm very involved in film tax credits, how they work, that kind of thing. So listen, most filmmakers say, I like to focus on the art of filmmaking. I like to put all my time and energy into the creativity and the making of the movie. And I say, of course you do, because that's the fun part. So do I. That's what I would love to do nothing in my life but direct films. Because that's the fun part of the industry. All right. But this is a business. And in a business, you have to sell what you make, just like any other business on the planet. If you make something, you have to sell it or you're going to not have enough money to make it. So that's the same with filmmaking. You make a great film, you got to sell it. All right. And in order to make the great film, you got to get money to make it. So this is what we call the bookend. The bookends are get the money to make the film. The middle is make the film. The other side is sell the film. So these are the bookends discussions. And so today you're going to pitch, we're going to hear pitches of people saying to me, I want money to make the film. And so I'm going to critique those pitches and I'm going to say, here's what you might want to ask to private investors where most of your money is going to come from if you want to be successful at getting the film made, getting the money. So that's what today is about. Is that a good summary, Zay? You're
Yeah, that's
muted.
pretty much a good summary of it. So we'll go over. He's gonna go over his spiel, and then there's a bunch of questions that y'all asked. We'll go over, and then one of the people that sent in their pitches that I picked to do them is here, and if anyone else joins in, then I'll have them do their pitch.
Well, I'm fine with anybody pitching.
Yeah. Or if anyone comes up with a last minute pitch, you can unmute yourself and say you got it. You can email it to me. If not, I can redo one of my pitches just for the experience that y'all can get, and we'll go from there.
I mean, do you want to kind of start by like last year you took the course, producing course,
Yeah.
and you did a pitch. I brought in three high net worth individuals, rich people, real investors who invested in my movies, and you pitched to them. Why don't you
Okay.
tell everybody how that went?
It was interesting. So when pitching, we did it in front of the professor. We did it in front of our classmates. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more of a lax kind of place. But when even though this was just a project and we weren't getting money for these projects, you still get to see the kind of questions that they ask, and a lot of them you would think they're asking about the creative process. They don't care about that, right? They want to see how can I make money. A lot of the people they just want to see if they give you $20,000, are they going to get $40,000 back? Are they going to get $30,000 back? Like, is this gonna help me? So that is one thing that you really want to look at when you're making your pitch, is that these people have a lot of money. Most of the time, they don't care about your story. They care about what you can do for them. So,
They care about your business plan.
yeah,
It's not
that
what you can do for them. It's your business plan. They want you to make a great movie, but then they also want you to sell it and make money with your movie.
exactly. So, uh, do you want me to just kind of go through a bunch of the questions, or you kind of have something you feel like you want
Whatever,
to?
whatever you want.
All
The
right,
format's, it's up to you.
let's just let me just open up some of these
I mean,
questions.
at some point, if depending on, who's in and what the questions are and all that kind of stuff, I don't mind just running through like a real investor pitch deck for you.
You can do that. You can do that as well. Okay, so let's just go through the some
I'm
of these.
assuming that people on this are all over the country. Is that a fair assumption? Where is
Yeah,
everybody from? Yeah.
yeah, I think we got somebody from Atlanta in here,
Based out of Maryland over here.
Maryland.
Mhm.
And anybody outside of the US? No. Okay.
No,
Not that it matters. I mean, filmmaking is filmmaking.
oh, we got somebody from Canada. There you go, Deb. Got
Who's
somebody
from
from
Canada?
Canada. DS from Canada. Got somebody from Texas.
DS, where are you? I'm formerly from Toronto. All right, DS doesn't have their mic on.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, we got Eddie Brock from Japan.
Japan. Well, how about that?
All right. Well, all right. Let's crack into some of these questions that we got here. So, you talked a little bit about how you talked about Netflix buying HBO and Warner Bros. So, with that in mind, how would you say you view the state of the independent filmmaking today in the environment?
All right. Well, the Netflix Warner Brothers deal really has no impact on independent filmmaking. And that is because both Netflix and Netflix and Warner Brothers slash HBO weren't buying independent films anyways. I mean, the odd film they would buy. So them amalgamating or, one being taken over by the other isn't really going to change that landscape at all. So as an independent filmmaker, I don't think you have to worry about it. I mean, people say, well, it's one less supplier in the marketplace or one less studio that we can sell our films to. And, 30 years ago, that was true because they were actually buying independent films, but they haven't been buying films, well, certainly Netflix for the last 10 years and Warner Brothers probably for the last 30 years. I know because I used to sell to them. And I did distribution for most of my career. So I know who was buying and who was not buying. So the impact on the independent film world, this deal will be negligible, if anything at all. You won't feel it. I mean, from a consumer point of view, I mean, I'm okay with them merging as long as Netflix, if Netflix can offer me HBO Max and all of the product there and do it cheaper than I have to pay my subscription, my Netflix subscription plus my HBO Max subscription. Like let's say I'm paying 20 bucks a month for Netflix and 10 for Max. That's 30. If they offer it to me at 25, I consider that a bargain. That would be great that they increase their price, consolidate the two libraries, can increase the price by $5 a month for 25. So I'm saving $5 a month on those two libraries because I subscribe to both of them anyways. So that could be a bonus. Now, if you're just a Netflix subscriber and they increase their price because they're offering more product, then, some people might get aggravated. A lot of the theatrical world is upset. Like the people who run the movie theaters, they say that Netflix is not going to release as many movies as Warner Brothers did because Netflix is, based on streaming and Warner Brothers was a theatrical release studio. I don't think that will happen. I think that Netflix bought Warner Brothers with the intent to run it as a theatrical movie studio and will continue to do that. That's my guess. And HBO will still be active in creating sort of high profile series like Game of Thrones and the stuff that they do. So Netflix didn't need to do this purchase. They did it because this, well, doubles this, not doubles, but increases the size of their company significantly overnight with an unbelievably great library of product. But they could have grown organically, Netflix. I mean, they have enough money to produce as much product as they want. I mean, they are the richest company in Hollywood these days. So they didn't need to buy Warner Brothers to make, to increase their production division. I think they bought Warner Brothers because they want to let Warner Brothers run as Warner Brothers. But the reason you would do this is because if you run say Netflix, Warner, and HBO under one management group, you can save $2 to $3 billion a year in administration costs. So collectively, it's more cost effective to run those companies together. I mean, this is all published information. This Netflix put out a release, and I read it, and this is what they're saying, and I believe it. I actually believe it. I think that this is actually pretty good for the industry and for Netflix and for Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers was going to get sold. It's been up for sale. It's been sold 3 or 4 times in my lifetime. I mean, the first sale they sold Warner Brothers about 35 years ago to Time magazine. It's before your time. And they called it Time Warner. The next sale, they sold it to AOL. When the internet first started, there was a big internet company called AOL, America Online. And it became AOL Time Warner. And they all went, belly up. Then they merged with Discovery, and it became Warner Brothers Discovery, which is that's what Netflix was, WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery. So Netflix, just Warner Brothers has been up for sale for a long time. And, it was just a matter of time that somebody bought it, and everybody looked at it. Universal wanted to buy it. Paramount wanted to buy it, like the new owners of Paramount, the Ellison family. Everybody wanted to buy it. Netflix obviously bought it. I think it makes the most sense. I think it's the best deal. I think the shareholders got the most amount of money as a result of it. So I, for one, think it's a pretty good deal.
All right. Well, moving on from there, I think one of the best topics about why people are here is how do you get the funding? How do you find these people? How do you find the investors? And how do you make that initial investment to start making films? And yeah, like where are the places you can go if we're in college? How do you find these rich millionaires, billionaires to give you money for your films?
Okay. Well, first of all, you asked me 2 questions. One is, hey, how do you find the money? And then you said, if we're in college. I'm pretty sure that if you're in college, you're not going to be eligible to get the money. Why? Because if you're a millionaire and you want to fund somebody to make a film, you don't want them to be in college because they don't have the time to make the film. All right. You want somebody, if you're going to invest, a couple $100,000 in a film, you want somebody to take it seriously. You want them working on it full time. You don't want their attention to be diverted. And you kind of don't want a young person who doesn't know what they're doing spending your couple $100,000 making a movie. So if it's about college filmmaking, it's a whole different discussion. Like
Let's
that's
say
a
let's say post grad. Let's say post grad then.
well,
Post grad.
let's do away with the college thing to start with, okay? If you're in college, your goal should be to learn how to make a good film. That should be your goal. You should make lots of short films. If you're lucky, maybe make a super, micro budget indie feature just to get the experience. All right. But learn how to make a good film. That's the key to being in college. All right. I invest in films, and there's not a chance I would invest with a college student. They'd have to show me something exceptionally unbelievable for me to take a chance to invest with them. So what I would say is after you graduate college and you can prove to me that you know what you're doing, then we can invest in you. So in college, you're going to focus on short films, micro budget in features, but probably just shorts. And you're going to fund them differently. You're going to fund them through crowdfunding, through personal funds like your family and friends and yourself, and you're going to spend five, maybe 10, $15,000. That's it. All right. Don't be spending $100,000 on a short film in college. It's not a good expenditure of your money. All right. Just spend as little as you can and just learn the craft of filmmaking. All right. Now you graduate from college and you're 2, 3, 4 years out. You're still sort of learning because now you're learning in the real world. People hate when I say college is not the real world, but it's a bit of a bubble. And by the way, not everybody goes to college. I mean, I'm assuming that half of you on this call do not go to film school, maybe 2/3 of you. So that's not a problem. It doesn't preclude you from being a filmmaker. All right. So you got to learn how to make films. Or, by the way, you don't even have to make the films. You just have to learn how films get made. And you hire people like Zay who actually know how to shoot and produce and all that kind of stuff. So, depending on what you want to do, if you want to be a director, you got to learn the craft of filmmaking. But if you want to be a producer, pay attention in this call because I'm going to teach you. Producing is about getting money, organizing people to do the crafts that you don't know how to do, which is, directing, acting, sound, lighting, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that. You just have to be good at organizing it and then taking the finished film and selling it. That's what producing is all about. All right. So, by the way, let me just tell you sort of my trajectory, just so I understand. All right. When I was graduating from high school, my dad said to me, "What do you want to do for a career?" I said, "Dad, like I'm 17. How do I know what I want to do?" He said, "Well, I know you like things and stuff like that." So then I said, "Well, I want to be a filmmaker." And he said, "A filmmaker?" I said, "Yeah, I love films. I love the idea of hopefully making them. It sounds like sexy and fun and everything like that." And then he said, "Well, if you want to be a filmmaker, do you want to be a director or a producer?" And I said, "I don't know. What's the difference?" And he said, "A director is all about the art of filmmaking. It's the craft of making a film. So if you want to learn that kind of stuff, you should go to film school. You should learn cinematography, lighting, sound, acting, directing, all the stuff that goes into the crafting of a good film. But if you want to be a producer, it's all about business. And in business, you don't need to ever step into a film school. You should go to business school or law school because it's all going to be finance and legal stuff." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way." And I said, "The producing thing sounds pretty cool. I think that sounds something like I would like to do." So what did I do? I went to college, I went to undergrad, and I got a degree in finance. And then I went to law school. Then I went to graduate school and I went to law school and I got a law degree in intellectual property law. So I have a finance degree and a law degree. I have the only time I ever stepped into a film school was, starting 6 years ago when I started teaching at San Diego State. I'd never been to a film school. I'm not educated in filmmaking, but yet in my career, I did distribution for decades, but I have made 9 feature films. I produced all 9 of them, and then I wrote and directed 5 of them. Now, why could a guy like me direct a movie, a feature film? Why? Because I spend a lot of time on set. I learn on set. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I learn from people like even Zay, who knows a heck of a lot more about cameras than I'll ever know. But I don't want to be the cinematographer. Like I just want to hire a good cinematographer. I want to hire somebody who knows what they're doing. I don't want to be the gaffer. I don't want to be a grip. I don't want to be a lighting person. I don't want to do any of that. I want a good team around me who does it really well. I just want to be the storyteller. Right? So I like directing, which is basically storytelling. So I want to be the guy who says, this is the way we need to tell the story. Now, here's the team. You guys help me tell it. That's the art of filmmaking. All right. So that's my plan. That's how I do it. I surround myself with people who have more skills than me in the filmmaking side, but I have a lot more skills than them in the producing side. See, every single one of them would love to do what I do, which is basically say, here's a movie that I would like to make, and then learn how to get it financed so that you can actually make it. And then when you make it, learn how to sell it so that you can get your money back or make a profit and make another movie. So the disconnect is that people spend too much time trying to learn about how to make the film and not enough time trying to learn how to get it financed and sold, which is the bookend stuff. All right. So I don't have probably half the skills in filmmaking that all of you have on this call. You're probably all, I don't know how to use a camera. I mean, could I turn it on and focus it? Yeah, but I don't know the settings. I don't know how to do the white balances. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Could I learn it? Yeah, but I don't want to learn it. I just want to hire people who know it better than I do. Why don't I want to learn it? Because I don't want to do it. I want to be the director. That's what I want to do. All right. So now it doesn't hurt to learn a lot of stuff, but I'm telling you, the things that you're not going to want to learn are how to sell your movie. Do you know why you're not going to want to learn it? Because it's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not filmmaking. The fun stuff is making the movie. Then the unsexy, unfun stuff is the selling stuff. Is going to markets and talking contracts and reading long legal contracts and doing deals and negotiating all that stuff. But that needs to get done. All right. So on this call, I don't need to teach you how to do that. I just need you to be aware that it has to get done if you want to be successful as a filmmaker. All right. So the way that I hire and surround myself by a good team of artistic people, if you're the artist, you need to surround yourself by a good team of business people. All right. You need to find people like me who enjoy doing the stuff that you don't like to do. And I need to find people like you who enjoy doing the stuff that I don't like to do. Like, I might hire Zay as a cinematographer one day, a DP on one of my shoots, because I know he's good at it. He's a very good cinematographer. He's a good editor. He's probably good at a lot of other stuff. I don't know. Maybe he wants me to hire him in my distribution division to go and sell the movies. We'll have that discussion another time.
No.
Okay, whatever. But that you're going to have to get some more skills in. So that's what I'm talking about. All right. Now, I went off topic a little bit because I wanted to sort of have the context of what this is all about. So, Zay, just remind me, the question is how to find financing, right? Private financing,
How do you
how to
find it?
finance your film.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said, don't bother when you're in college because basically the financial people aren't going to give you the money because they're not going to trust you. All right. So let's just, most of 99% of financing for independent feature films. Okay. I'm talking about films that are made for $1 million or less. All right. If you're going to talk about studio films and, 10 million, 20, $30 million feature films, that stuff all goes through the studios. It's a different business model. They're financed differently. So I'm not talking about that. I am talking about low budget independent films that have budgets of less than $1 million because it's a different strategy. If you want to know about the other strategy, we can talk about that later. Just ask me, okay? But for low budget indie films, 99% of the money is going to come from rich people, okay? Otherwise known as high net worth individuals. People who have a lot of money, who are willing to invest in your project because they believe in you. They believe that you're a good filmmaker and they believe that you're going to make a good film. And hopefully they believe that you're going to be able to sell that film for a profit so that they can make their money back and make it a good investment. See, we call these people investors because their motivation is not for you to make your film. Their motivation is for them to make money back from your film. So they're betting, like they would in any investment, that you're a good filmmaker, you're going to make a good film, you're going to sell it for more than you make it for, and then they're going to get their money back plus a profit, which is what we call return on investment, ROI. That is the motivation of an investor. Now, some of these investors, all right, are going to be your family and your friends. And they're going to help you out because they like you. Hopefully they love you, right? In the case of your family. They want to support you. You have a dream. You want to make a movie. That's a dream. They would like to see you realize your dream. So they're going to help you out by supporting you financially. They might not be worried about getting their money back because they're family and friends. But you should still nonetheless treat them like they're investors with the intention of wanting to pay back their money. Now, number one rule of thumb when you're dealing with investors, never take money from somebody who can't afford to lose it, especially in the film industry. Why? Because the film industry is very risky. And a lot of films lose money, and I'll explain to you why they do that afterwards, okay? So a lot of films lose money, and which means a lot of the investors don't get paid back their investment. So if somebody can't afford to lose the money, then it could be very painful for their life if they lose it. So for instance, for example, if your parents, they love you and they want to support you, and you say, I'm going to make a film, Mom, Dad, I'm making a film for $250,000 and, I need some help getting the money. And they say, well, we have $250,000 tucked away. It was for our retirement. We were going to use it to retire on or to, buy something, take some nice trips or whatever they were going to do with it, right? But we love you so much. We're going to give it to you because we believe in you. Don't take that money because if they need that money to retire on and you lose it, it's going to be really bad. Only take the money from somebody who has enough money where they can afford to lose it and it's not going to change their lifestyle. But if the money that they're going to lose is going to change their lifestyle and say not let them retire properly or not let them, live the way they want to live or something like that, it's not a good idea to take the money because it's too risky. The money is too risky. So people who have a ton of money, like multimillionaires who, $250,000 is like going to Starbucks to buy a coffee for you. Their money, it's easier to deal with it. Now, you still should still be very respectful of their money, okay? Because their money is hard earned and they don't want to lose it. But at least if they lose it, they can afford, it's not going to change anything in their lifestyle. So those are the kind of investors you want to look for. People who have, like I said, we call them high net worth individuals, AKA rich people. All right. These are people who have enough money that if they lose it, it's not going to change their lifestyle. That's what you want to primarily deal with. Now, once in a while, you're going to take money from family and friends, and but like I say, only take it if they can afford to lose it. So if mom and dad want to give you 250 because they love you, say, you know what, why don't you give me 25 to get me started? Because if I lose the 25, it's not going to change your lifestyle, and I'll try to find the other money. That'll help me get started. It'll help me tell a good story to everybody else. Okay, so where do you find these rich people? Okay, by the way, I said 99% of the funds come from that. The other 1% comes from crowdfunding. If you want to do a crowdfunding campaign, but crowdfunding is primarily for short student films. It like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Seed and Spark, these are crowdfunding campaign platforms. You're not going to raise, if you raise 50,000 on a crowdfunding campaign, you're doing really, really well, but it's very hard to do that. All right. Now, once in a while, somebody raises $250,000 or something, but for the most part, you're not raising big dollars on crowdfunding. You're raising small dollars, 5,000, 10,000, that type of thing. So that's why I'm saying most of the money is going to come from private, high net worth individuals. So here's the big question. Where do you find these people? And when you find them, how do you pitch to them? So, how do you find them? That's called networking. All right. So, some of you were probably born into a network where your parents or are already in that category. They're high net worth individuals and they hobnob with other high net worth individuals. Maybe they're doctors or lawyers or engineers or whatever they do in their profession where they've made a lot of money and they're in circles of other people who have also made a lot of money. So that's a good start. Friends and family of your parents or other people who you know who are rich, maybe your neighbors or that type of thing. So you want to get into a circle of people who have money. So if you're born into it, you're lucky. All right. If you're not born into it, you're going to have to work your way into it. All right. Now, I'm going to give you some crazy ideas and you're all going to laugh, but this is how it's done. All right. So if you're, born, you're not lucky enough to be born into a high net worth individual circle, you're going to have to find your way into it. And here's how you do it. Number one, you do not accost people on the street. You don't wait outside fancy restaurants and, see who gets into $200,000 Porsches and then follow them home and accost them. That is not a way to raise money. All right. Maybe it happens in the movies, maybe it's glorious like that, but it doesn't happen that way in real life. All right. You'll get arrested for that kind of stuff. However, what if, and again, at the lowest level, okay, there's lots and lots of different ways to do this, but you're struggling and you need to get in. So where do rich people hang out? Where do they hang out? One of the places that they hang out is in country clubs, like golf and country clubs. People who have money, generally, a lot of them join a fancy golf and country club. All right. Now, you're not going to necessarily, it's funny, I started watching this series last night on Apple TV called Palm Royale. Have any of you seen it yet? Okay, so Palm Royale is exactly about this. It's this young girl who shows up in Palm Beach, Florida in the late 1969, and this fancy club called Palm Royale Club. She wants to get into it, but she's not of the means. She doesn't come from that world, and she wants to infiltrate that world. So the whole series is about how does she get into that world and become one of them. All right, now she sneaks her way into the club and everything like that. But another way to do this, to get into a country club where all these rich people live, is go get a job there. And I know you think that's nuts, but go get a job in, if it's a golf club, maybe in the bag room, maybe in the restaurant, maybe at the valet stand, something like that, because you need to meet these people. They need to get to know you. They need to get to like you. And then when the right time comes, they will let you pitch to them. All right. And it's not going to happen overnight. You might have to work there for 6 months to a year before you're familiar enough with them. But the only way to get familiar enough with them is to see them on a regular basis. So you got to see them, once, twice a week for the next 6 months. And then they get to know you. Hi, Mr. Johnson, how are you today? Did you, I see Ian Johnson on the call. I just made that name up because I was reading your name, Ian. How are you today? Can I get your clubs? Can I do this? Can I do that? You're kissing their asses, right? That's what you do at country clubs. but they get to like you and they get to know you and they say, "Hey," one day Mr. Johnson turns around and says, "Hey Jeff, what do you do when you're not working here?" "Well, I'm a filmmaker and I have a film and at some point I'd really love to pitch you on it because I really need help with it." "Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I bring a couple other members in?" And one day you're going to get your chance to pitch to them. But you're never going to get that chance by standing outside the gates and seeing these people drive in. You got to be on the inside. So do you want to work there? No. Do you want to do this? No. But you bite your tongue and you do what you need to do to get into the circles. So that's one way to do it. Another way, work at a fancy restaurant. Now, the fancy restaurant is not as predictable as the golf club because the golf club people come all the time. The fancy restaurant is they come once every month, once every couple of months. So you don't get the familiarity. It takes a lot longer. It takes years and years and years in a restaurant. But you got to go to where they are. And if you're not one of them, then you have to work in a job that is going to expose you to be one to get to know them. And here's the secret, as I said a few times. They just need to see who you are and they need to kind of take a liking to you. So you have to be polite, you have to be polite, very nice, very professional, so that when the right time comes, and you'll know when the right time is. Okay, I'm going to say it's no less than 6 months, somewhere between 6 months and a year. You're going to say to them, "I'm a filmmaker and I have a project and I'd love to pitch you on it." And they're going to say yes because they like you. So that's going to get you in the door. All right. And there's other ways you can do it, but that's just one way. All right. And then you say, "What, Jeff, I don't want to waste 6 months of my life working in a golf club." And I say, "You're not wasting it. You're investing it. Also, by the way, you're also getting paid, you know, and you're not doing it necessarily full time. Maybe it's part time, but you need to be in that circle. So somehow, some way, listen, maybe you go and work as a receptionist in a fancy law firm, or as a paralegal or somebody in their IT department or something like that. So you get to know them that way. Somehow, some way, you need to get in the circles of rich people. So I like the golf club thing the best because we know you can't be in a golf club if you're not rich. I mean, only rich people can afford to do it. So you know that everybody there has the means to help you out. And you just have to bide your time. All right. So let's say now that's how you get in. That's how you start networking. Again, there's lots of other ways to do it, but it's not going to happen at bars, guys. You're not going to go to fancy bars and meet people at the bar. And, that happens in the movies. It doesn't happen in real life. All right. Once in a while, somebody has, like your doctor says to you, "What do you do?" And you say, "I'm a filmmaker." "Oh, that's interesting." And you say to them, "Well, you're friends with a lot of other doctors. Can I pitch to you?" Maybe that'll happen. Some rich doctor, something like that. All right. But if you already have a network, then just work the network. All right. So that gets you in the door. Now, the key thing is you're going to get one meeting with these people and you better do it properly. You better pitch them properly because they're only going to give you one chance. All right. So when you get your chance, you have to do the pitch properly. So Zay, do we want to get into that now? Because the rest of this is going to be, what do you say to those people when you get into that meeting so that you don't blow it? That's the key thing, that you will get in the door, but only once.
I want to talk first a little bit more about all the processes, and then we can go into the pitches just so people can see everything you talked about in action, and then kind of
Yeah, sure.
look at it. So continuing from there, we all get that one chance. We get lucky. We get them in the door. Right? They give us the money, and
No, they haven't given you the money. You got to pitch them.
well, we pitch. Okay, so we pitch.
Oh, you pitch them. Yeah,
We
you
pitch.
pitch them.
We get the
Yeah,
money. Yada yada.
yeah.
We make the movie. Boom, guys! Great success. That's a wrap. All right. Do we submit this to Dropbox? Send it to Netflix? Like how are we gonna
Okay,
get this money back?
okay. So you got the money. So we haven't obviously gone through that, but we will. So you get the money. You make a great movie. All right, you take it seriously, make a great movie. Now the movie's finished. Congratulations. So here's what happens. Big wrap party, big, cast and crew screening, hip hooray. Everybody's happy. You made a great movie and everybody celebrates. Now, if you're the producer, everybody leaves the screening and that's it for them. The movie's over, the whole movie project's over. They go on to the next project. For you, the producer, your life is just beginning. This movie is just in its infancy because now this is like you just had a baby, the baby was born. All right, that's what this is. You went through 9 months of pregnancy, you birthed the baby. That's what making the movie is. Now you have a baby, a child for the rest of your life, and you have to groom that child to be a good child. That's called distribution. You're going to take your film and you're going to put it out into the world and you're going to try to make it as successful as possible. So success means you're going to try to put it in front of as big an audience and get as much paying audience as you can, people to pay for it. So that's what we call distribution. Now, distribution is way, way, way more challenging than production. Everybody says, "Oh no, do you know how hard it is to make a movie?" And I say, "What do you mean, do I know how hard it is? I've made 9 movies. You haven't made any movies. You're telling me I know exactly how hard it is to make a movie, and it's very hard to make a movie. But have you ever sold a movie? When you go to sell a movie, you will see how much more challenging distribution and marketing is than production. Production is challenging, but it's easy because you have money. Production is just about spending money. Distribution is about earning money, is about selling something and getting the money back. So now you have to go into distribution. So distribution is a whole other area. It takes about, let's say it takes about a year to make a movie. Okay, by the time you write the script, develop it, get the money, make the movie post-production, that's about a year, okay? I mean, you could do it quicker, but that's about a year. Distribution is the rest of your life because your child is born and will outlive you. All right. So distribution is no less than 20 years. Your film is an asset now. It will always be an asset. Your film will outlive you and it will always be available to audiences. So distribution takes on a life of its own and it never ends. Just like your child hopefully will outlive you. All right. So, and you're always looking out for your child. That's what distribution is. So we can spend tons and tons of time on distribution, but basically the key to distribution is number one, know how to do it, like know how to get a good distributor and get a good distribution deal. And then two, know how to create awareness for your film is what we call marketing. And I don't want to waste the whole call on that, but I can go into details, as you know. I mean, you took the course. So how much detail do you want me to go into? Because distribution, I could teach how to make a movie in 1 semester at film school. Distribution, I would need 5 years to teach it properly. You'd have to spend 5 years in school to learn it all. Whereas production, I could teach it in 1 semester.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, let's just kind of go over the broadness, and then people can kind of go and figure out more research throughout their time. Is like for distribution, we make it, and you're the producer. How are you getting in contact with Netflix, to Tubi, or like Hulu, HBO? How are you gonna how do you get to these platforms through either through
Well,
festivals? How do you know which festivals to go to be seen? How do you know who to talk to even get a meeting with one of these streaming platforms to get your film there?
okay. So is that where you want to spend the time? Because you know I could talk for hours on this subject. You know that, right?
We talked a
Like,
little bit about that, and then in terms of
okay,
marketing, we can kind of like skim over that just a bit. That's a
okay,
little bit easier.
fair enough. So let's just start with film festivals. All right. Festivals are the celebration of independent films. That's what they are. They're a party. It's the celebration of a film. It is not the business. Going to a festival is not distributing your movie. It's basically you're going to take your film, you're going to submit it to a festival. If you get accepted into the festival, your film will screen in front of a what we call a festival audience, people who like to go to festivals to watch indie films. Other filmmakers will watch it, friendly audiences will watch it. You'll do a Q&A, you'll have a good time. Everybody, you might win an award. Everybody will celebrate you, tell you hip hooray, you made a great film, and you'll have a nice time at a festival. That's why we call it the celebration of indie films. That's what festivals are. Will you sell your film there? No. But then you're going to say to me, but I'm going to get my film into Sundance or Cannes or Toronto, the big festivals. And then I'll sell my film there because you've all heard the stories where, an indie film goes there and then Netflix picks it up for 10 million, right? Have you also heard the stories of when somebody like in college buys a lottery ticket and wins the lottery? Do you know how many people buy lottery tickets every lottery? About 50 million. Do you know how many people win? One. So can you win the lottery? Of course you can win the lottery. Can you win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket? No. You have to buy a ticket. All right? But if you buy a ticket, your chances are 1 in 50 million of winning. That's not a good business plan, folks. All right. That is what we call Sundance, Toronto, Cannes. These are festivals that you're likely not going to get into your film. And even if it does, the chances of it screening in front of a big audience with a distributor and that kind of stuff are extremely low. I'm not saying you shouldn't try. I'm just saying it's likely not going to happen. So don't make that your business plan. All right. Make it your hopeful plan. Like you can have a hope and a dream, but that is not your core business plan. Like when you're going to pitch to investors, you're not going to say to them, here's the plan. I'm going to make a great film. I'm going to submit it to Sundance. They're going to accept it. There's going to be Netflix buyers going to be there. They're going to get at the end of the film, they're going to love it and they're going to give us $10 million for it. That is not a realistic plan. Right now, you could maybe snow somebody on that plan, but it's not realistic. The odds of that happening are 1 in 10 million. So you can try to make it happen and try your best, but don't make it your plan. Make it the hopeful dream. Your plan has to be a little bit more realistic. So you can go to festivals, have a good time, enjoy it, celebrate your film. You worked hard to make your film, have a party, celebrate it. When you're ready to actually sell your film, that's when you're going to go and find a distributor. All right. Now, you can do this at the same time as you're in festivals. You can find distributors. So distributors are people who take the rights to your film and they're professionals at selling your film, meaning they're going to send it to streaming platforms. Like you cannot send your movie to Netflix. Netflix is not open for business with independent filmmakers. They won't even receive your movie. They won't accept it. Basically, if you go on their website, it says we receive no unsolicited submissions, meaning unless you're a registered distributor with us, we're not going to watch your movie. We get too many submissions. We get 10 million people sending us movies every year. We don't watch them. We only watch things that come to us from our selected distributors. So you're going to need to find one of those selected distributors in order to let them represent your movie to Netflix. That's how you get to Netflix, through a distributor. So you have to figure out who's doing business with Netflix. Now, sometimes Netflix publish. These are the distributors that we do business with. So go knock on their doors and see if they like your movies, and hopefully they'll represent your movie. All right. So now you have to go and you have to find a distributor. And there's various ways to find distributors. There's lists of distributors. You can email them. You can go to a film market, not a festival, a market where the distributors hang out. Like, the American film market just happened a couple weeks ago in Los Angeles. That's a big market. There's 400 distributors go there. You register, you spend the day there. I took my distribution class there. We met with 9 distributors that day. And you meet them, you show them what you have, you pitch them, and that's how you find a distributor. If you don't go to market, there's lists of ways to get in front of distributors. But ultimately, they're looking for good films. And if you have a good film, then hopefully they'll watch your film and say, yeah, we like your film. We'll represent it. And then they'll send it to Netflix. And then Netflix may say, we like your film, we don't like the film. But the only way Netflix is going to look at your film, and Hulu and Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and all the big streaming platforms, is if you have a distributor. You cannot submit directly to them. There are only 2 platforms that you can submit to directly, and only narrative films, not even documentaries. Amazon you can submit to directly, and YouTube. And YouTube's a big player, but YouTube, it's hard to make money with them. All right. So the rest of them, you have to go through distributors or these other thing, what we call aggregators, which are kind of service companies. Some of you may have heard of a company called Film Hub. So Film Hub is what we call an aggregator. They basically represent your film to a lot of the streaming platforms, and they put it out there and then, submit it on your behalf, because the streaming platforms will not accept the submission from you directly. So you have to use this third-party company called an aggregator or a distributor to submit on your behalf. And that's how you get it into streaming. It's also how you get a theatrical release. I mean, you could, if you're crazy, spend money and go rent movie theaters and put your film out, but it's not cost effective, and you'll lose a lot of money. But a distributor, if they say, we love this movie, look at, folks, chances are a low budget indie film is not getting a theatrical release. And that's just because it doesn't have big name talent. The first thing that people do when they go to the movies is say, who's in it? If you don't have an A-list actor in your movie, then nobody's going to pay to see it. That's the reason. Okay, you could have a fantastic movie, but if it doesn't have A-list talent, chances are people aren't going to pay to see it. Just the way people are. It's how they think. All right. So don't worry about the theatrical release. Streaming is where you're going to get most of the return, most of the money. and then television, maybe. DVD, does it still exist? Not really. I wouldn't waste my time with it. Then there's what we call ancillary. Maybe you can sell it to some airlines, some cruise ships, some libraries, universities. That's the ancillary market, we call that. But primarily, a distributor is going to do all of that for you. So the trick is find some distributors, and then the second part is negotiate a fair distribution deal. Now, again, I could spend hours and hours and hours on explaining what a fair distribution deal is. I could show you, I could share my screen and bring a distribution deal up. I just negotiated one 2 days ago with a big distributor from one of my clients, and I can show you what that looks like. But we spend hours on, say, I just finished teaching a 12-week course on distribution deals. I mean, that's an entire course just on analyzing what a distribution deal looks like.
Maybe we'll
So
do
that's
another
just
call one day.
yeah, that's distribution. That's how you're going to get your film in front of audiences. And then hopefully those audiences are going to pay. Like if Netflix buys your movie from a distributor, they're going to pay a certain amount of money for a certain period of time. And you're going to get a good chunk of that money. And hopefully that's going to amount to you making your money back and, and sharing it with your investors.
All
That's
right. So
distribution.
now, when you say you give it to Netflix, they take it. How do you know if it's like, hey, we're gonna give you 10 million, but we want 95% of your movie, or we're gonna give
No, no.
you
Well, each
a
platform's a
million
little.
and we want 20%? How do you figure
They
out
don't, it's
a
not,
good
that's not how it
distributor?
works. Netflix is what we call an SVOD platform, a subscription video on demand platform. Meaning, video on demand means, you watch it whenever you want, whatever. Okay, but subscription means you're paying a monthly subscription to a company and they're giving you access to all of their product. So the big subscription video on demand platforms are Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, Hulu. No, Hulu's not is yeah, Hulu's got it, yeah, and Peacock. So some of these have those are what SVOD, where you pay a monthly subscription. But some of them you can also just watch for free, and you don't pay a monthly subscription, but you have to watch ads with it. So that's ad-free watching, all right, when you have subscription video on demand. Now, of course, Netflix, everybody's getting into different levels. So if you only want to pay $10 a month to Netflix, you can watch some of their programming with ads. There's platforms like Tubi and Pluto where you don't pay anything. You don't pay a monthly subscription. You can watch all you want, but you have to watch it with ads. So we call that AVOD. That's advertising video on demand. All right. So that's watch for free, but watch ads. And then the ad revenue pays for that. But let's go back to Netflix. So Netflix licenses your film from you, and they usually give you a 5-year term. So they'll take your movie for 5 years exclusively, meaning when they have it, nobody else can have it. It's the only place it can play. And they'll give you a flat fee for 5 years. Like say they'll give you $300,000 for a 5-year period. So that's all the money you're going to get for 5 years from Netflix. All right. Now, let's say the movie plays, 10 people over the 5 years watch your movie on Netflix, or 10 million people watch it. It's still the same number. $300,000 is a flat fee, and it doesn't matter how many people watch. It's a flat fee for that period of time. So there's no percentages. There's no, I'm going to get more if more people watch or less if less people watch. It's one deal for a set period of time, a flat fee deal. That's how Netflix works. And that's primarily how all the SVOD streaming platforms work. So they make a bet and they say, this is worth this much. This is how much viewership we're going to get. You never know. When you go into a Netflix meeting, which I've been in many times, and you say, hey, guys, how did my movie do? They sit in front of you because you sit in Netflix office across from you. They have their little tablet and they go, oh, it did well. I say, what does well mean? Like, is that 10,000 views, 10 million views, 100 million views? It did well. That's what they say. They never tell you the number. You never know how many views you had. So is that fair? It's fair because that's the deal you made. The deal is they gave you 300,000 for 5 years, and that's the deal. If you don't like the deal, don't make the deal. That's how it works.
And then, so say you get it on Netflix, woohoo, everyone can see it. Now, instead of getting people to just scroll through, they see your movie, nobody knows about it. Let's talk about the marketing. How do you get people to come to Netflix to watch your film? with the marketing?
No, when it's on Netflix, Netflix does that. Netflix does the marketing. They'll put it out, hey, new movies this month, or they'll feed it to people in their algorithm who might be interested in the genre of that movie. So when you're on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or anything, they do the marketing for you for your film. You don't have to worry about that. But let's say you don't get your movie onto Netflix, which is most movies are not going onto Netflix. At the beginning of this call, I said Netflix doesn't really buy independent films anymore. All right. So chances are your movie's not going to go onto Netflix. Let's look at the complete opposite end of the scale, which is you decide you're going to release your movie on YouTube. You're going to release it yourself. All right. You couldn't find a distributor. You couldn't negotiate a good distribution deal, whatever the case may be. So you say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to release this movie myself and I'm going to put it onto YouTube. All right. So now you're on YouTube. Now let's say you create your own YouTube channel. So I'm just shifting my position here. You create your own YouTube channel and you know how to monetize it. So if you have enough product and everything like that, but I'm suggesting that you do. All right. Now, do you know how many movies are on YouTube? There's well over 1 billion movies, short films, anecdotal stuff. There's like 1 million things on YouTube. So the question is, how's anybody going to know about your movie on YouTube? Nobody's going to know about it. Nobody's going to find it organically. All right. How do they know about you, Zay? How does anybody know about anything? You got to do marketing. Marketing is the key. It's about creating awareness with audiences. So you have to do an outreach campaign to a potential audience to let them know, hey, everybody, I put my movie onto YouTube. Here's where it's available. Please watch it, because every time somebody watches it, I get 5 cents for my movie, whatever the case may be, okay, per view. You have to draw an audience. You have to create awareness and excitement to entice the audience to go to watch your movie. And that is what we call marketing. Now, as hard as it is to find a distributor and get a movie onto a platform, the hardest part is the marketing. It's creating awareness with audiences to let them know that you have a movie, that it's a good movie, to excite them to want to see the movie, and then to send them to the place that the movie's available. So in this case, we're using YouTube, but it could have been on any of the platforms. You can send them to Tubi, to Pluto, to Apple TV, wherever your movie's available, you send them there. But you have to create awareness with audiences to let them know where it is and to send them there. Now, Zay, in a lot of ways, you're better at marketing than I am. I mean, you do that for a living. You're an Instagram guy, you got a big following. So how do you do it? You tell me, how do you create awareness for yourself, or in that case, for a movie?
Exactly. One of the biggest things for marketing, how did I get people here? Even though not everybody joined, how did I get 91 people to sign up for this? Right? You need to build trust. You need to build that audience. Content is king, especially going into 2026 on these future years. People trust people with an audience. Hey, I have 14,000 people that watch me. I have thousands and thousands of people that watch me every day. You're building a trust. You're building an audience who wants to hear what you have to say. Maybe not all of you have seen my films, but if I start promoting, hey, I got this film, I got this film, I got this film every single day. You keep seeing it every single day. You keep seeing behind the scenes. You keep seeing trailers. You keep seeing me talk about it. You hear the actors talk about it. You hear the crew. You see all this stuff. You're like, I want to check this out. Now I'm just like, it's on YouTube. It's free. You can go check it out, right? And you're getting people there. You're getting people to share it. You're getting people to tell people about it. And that's how you keep growing. And then eventually it gets a whole ton of views. Maybe you have another chance to go to a distributor. You got another chance to blow it up. And so having people that trust you, that follow you, that want to see what you do is very, very important. It's a very helpful thing to have, especially when you're pitching. If you're pitching to somebody, you say, I already have these people that see my stuff. Look at the stuff I've done before. They're probably going to watch it. I have a short film out there with 120,000 views just because for 4 days straight, I was just posting 5 times a day about it. Every day for 4 days. I just posted. When they came out, it got a whole ton of views. So it's the same thing with marketing anything. You have to.
It sounds like a lot of work to post.
It is a lot of work, but it's your product, and are you gonna make it and just let it float out there, or are you gonna make it and do something with it, right? That's the only way you're gonna make money is for people
So
to see.
let's say you had a feature film and you were releasing it, and you had gave yourself 4 months, of posting. You'd be doing a lot of posting, a lot of other stuff, a lot of outreach. Would you agree with me that that's a lot more work than it took to make the film?
It is a ton. It is a ton of work. It's a ton of
Okay,
work.
so that's what I was saying. What he's talking about is the work that I'm saying, is the work to put in to make the audience aware and to excite them. And some of you have the ability to do that and the time and the skill set, which Zay does. Some of you don't. Some of you might have to hire people to do that for you. But if there's no marketing and no awareness, you're not going to get any traction on your film. So let's just go back. I said something earlier in the call. I said most indie films are not successful. Now that we sort of have the landscape, I'm going to explain why. All right. So let's say in the United States every year, about 10,000 feature films get made every year. About 10,000, okay? Statistically. And a feature film means, I'm talking narrative features, not documentaries. So a narrative feature is a film that is 70 minutes or longer. That's how we define a narrative feature. 70 minutes or longer, but not a documentary, it's narrative story. All right? 10,000 of those get made every year. Of those 10,000, 5,000 are unwatchable because they're made so poorly. They're shot out of focus. You can't hear them. The sound is terrible. The filmmaker just did not do a good job. They weren't a skilled filmmaker, or they were learning, or trying out or experimenting or whatever. So 5,000 of those films are more or less unwatchable, and they're not going to get distributed because nobody wants to watch a bad film. Nobody, forget paying for it. They don't want to waste their time watching a film that's out of focus. All right. So 5,000 of those films never see the light of day. They're practice. That's all it is. All right. Of the 5,000 films that are good, that are shot nicely, that have a good story, that are real films, 4,000 of them never get distribution. They never they never go in front of a distributor. The filmmaker never sends it to a distributor. They never find a distributor. They never get a distribution deal. Why? Because the filmmaker doesn't know how to do distribution. They don't know how to do what we just talked about. They don't know how to go to a market and find a distributor, or how to email or do that, because they're aggravated, they're frustrated. It was hard enough to make the film. Now it's so much harder to actually get the distributor, and they get aggravated and frustrated. So 4,000 of those 5,000 good films basically sit on a hard drive in somebody's closet and never get released. Like, what a shame. And that's just because the filmmaker doesn't know how to do the business side of the business. Too bad. It's really a shame. All right. So now you've got 1,000 films that actually get distributed. So they get a distributor and they get released. They get released onto streaming platforms like Tubi and Pluto and maybe Netflix and all these, okay? But or even YouTube, whatever. They're available. They get released. All right? But nobody knows about them. Because of those 1,000 films that get released, only 200 of them do marketing, do a marketing campaign. Why do 800 not do the marketing campaign? Because it's too hard to do the marketing campaign. You got to do what Zay just told you to do. You got to post every day. You got to do lots of work. It's going to cost you money. You got to maybe buy paid ads on Instagram and TikTok and all this kind of stuff. You have to work hard to get the attention of the audience, much harder than you had to work to actually make your film. And a lot of filmmakers don't want to do it because it's too hard. It's too challenging, or they don't know how to do it. Like I'm telling you right now in this call, I'm admitting to you, Zay's way better at social media marketing than I am. He's way better at it. He knows what to do. He's got the patience to do it. I've been at it a lot longer than him, but he's better at it than me. All right. So sometimes you just don't even know what you're doing, or you have to hire somebody, which costs money. You have to pay them, and you don't have the money to do it. So 800 of those films that got distributed, they're out there, but nobody's ever going to see them because nobody knows about them. They're going to get hidden, like they're the 50,000th or 60,000th film on Tubi, and everybody's looking for the big Hollywood films on Tubi. So nobody knows about them. So now you've got 200 films that are made properly, get proper distribution, and get properly marketed. And of those, half of those films are successful. Half of those films make money. The other half, not everything works. All right. You can't expect perfect results on everything. All right. But so 100 of 10,000 films actually make money. That's 1%. But that's a very low statistic. 1% of indie films every year make money. But if you look at it as a percentage of how many films get made, like the films get made properly, they get distributed properly and get marketed properly, the success rate is 50%. So of the 200 films that got made, distributed, and marketed properly, 100 of them are successful and 100 aren't. That's a 50% success rate. So if you want to be successful with this business, just do it properly, like anybody else would do any other business properly. All right. Number one, make a good film. Number two, get it distributed properly. And number three, do a proper marketing campaign. Then you have a 50% chance of success, which is really, really a good chance of success. Now, let me compare that to the restaurant business. If you want to open a new restaurant, do you know what the chances of succeeding with a new restaurant are in the United States? It's like 10%. Okay, 90% of new restaurants fail. So you actually have a better chance with a feature film if you do it properly. Now, the reason that restaurants fail is the same reason. They have a shitty menu, they have a bad location, they have bad service, they didn't do their marketing properly, so that maybe they have great menu, great food, great service, but nobody knew about the restaurant. So it's a combination of a lot of things, business things that give you a good chance of success. All right. And if you do it properly, you'll have a good chance of success. Now, what I just said to you really, I think, segues into the whole pitch thing. Okay. Because when you're in front of an investor, remember I said you're going to get that shot. That country club member is going to say to you, fine, I'll sit with you and I'll bring three other people and we're going to let you speak to us. You're going to need to convince them of three things. Number one, that you're going to make a good movie. Number two, that you're going to get it marketed properly. I mean, distributed properly. And number three, that you're going to have a good marketing campaign. And when you convince them of that, they're going to say, wow, this person knows the business. I'm going to take a chance with them.
Absolutely. So with that, I'm going to open up one of the pitches for Robert. If you are in here, just pitch water.
Okay,
Hello.
Robert, first of all, are you on camera? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so
Sorry
here's
about that.
here's the deal, Robert. Here's the deal. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, currently in LA.
Okay. So Robert, you're going to pitch me, all right? And you're a brave guy because you're going to pitch me. And then I'm going to try to be kind to you and give you positive feedback, okay? But I'm going to give you constructive criticism so you can hone your pitch so that when you get in front of those high net worth individuals, you're going to tell them the right thing. But hopefully, let's see how it goes. Hopefully, you're going to tell me the right things.
All right, so I'm going to share
All
my
right, that
screen
sounds
and
no
I'll
pressure.
kind of scroll through the pitch as best as I can.
I'm going to be nicer to you than I was to Zay in the class when he was doing this.
You
I
bullied
greatly
me,
appreciate that. And sorry for my wonky camera angles. I was having some technical difficulties with
That's
my
fine.
laptop, and
You look
so
fine.
now, thank you, thank you. All right. So,
Can everybody? Oh, there we go. Can everybody see this?
Water.
All right.
awesome.
Okay, by the way,
So,
how long is this pitch, Robert?
I can wrap this up in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, whoa, that's like an elevator pitch. That's great. Okay, let's do
Yes,
it.
sir.
All righty.
All right. Hello, my name is Robert Davis, and I am the writer of Water, which is a 95-page contained drama slash thriller. The log line is a married couple trying to move past infidelity must fight to survive being trapped in an elevator as water levels rise during a massive flood. Comparable films are Fall, Open Water, and 127 Hours. I was inspired to write the film as it relates to my own personal romantic relationship issues as I was grappling with forgiveness myself. I was also inspired by the films Malcolm and Marie, as well as A Marriage Story, combined with seeing real life instances where a group of friends in Omaha, Nebraska were trapped in a flooding elevator in 2021 as the city around them flooded, along with the story of a couple in Tel Aviv, Israel, who unfortunately drowned in an elevator as a result of a flood as well. I asked myself, what if people who had this type of animus towards one another, where love once lived and quite possibly still does, were placed in an impossible situation where repentance and forgiveness could be the very last things they could ever do. Andrew and Sophia are my main characters. They are in their 30s and are in therapy due to their marriage that is in need of desperate repair. Both have infidelities and secrets. However, Sophia is pregnant and does not know whether or not her husband is the biological father of their child. The arguments, the cheating, and the lies all take a back seat when they become trapped in an elevator after leaving their therapy session. What makes matters worse, Sophia goes into labor as an impending flood threatens to turn that elevator into their watery tomb. Themes of water include birth and rebirth, the consequences of sin. Can atheism survive in a foxhole? Water baptism, love, hate, vengeance, hypocrisy, justice, becoming a new creation, repentance, spreading the good news of the gospel message, forgiveness, grace, and mercy. The estimated budget for the film could be about $6 million. However, I believe that with the latest innovations of technology, namely AI, that budget can be cut in half, possibly. A little about me. I am a born again believer who was originally from St. Louis, Missouri, currently in Los Angeles. And I like to write stories about people who are the broken, the discarded, those who have fallen from grace and are transformed by the love of God in order to be a light to those who need to know that God is not finished with them yet. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Okay, let me tell you the pros and the cons, okay? So first of all, good job.
Thank
Actually,
you.
you know what? I'm going to give you a virtual clap too. Here you go. My virtual clap to you. Okay. Okay, Robert.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
good pitch. Like,
Thank you.
no, the part that you pitched well.
Thank you.
You're missing a ton of stuff in this pitch, but what you did, I'll tell you what I liked about it. You know your material and you said it succinctly. All right, you didn't stumble over it. The only time I'd had enough is you used way too many adjectives when you were describing, the redemption and all the stuff that, the themes of the movie.
Gotcha.
We need two or three themes, but it's a good story. It's interesting. Now,
Thank you.
here's where you lost me a little bit. Now, again, remember, I am a seasoned producer. I do this for a living, okay? I'm not an investor, all right? But as a seasoned producer, there was something you'd said that lost me that might lose the investors.
Mm,
This is more or less a two-person movie in a one location environment. Now, maybe there's
mhm.
some lead up, we see their front story and then, a couple of scenes leading into the elevator. Okay, we don't start in an elevator.
Right.
We see stuff going on, but then most of the movie is in the elevator, I'm going to assume. Of your 95-page script or whatever you said, how much takes place in the elevator?
More about 80%, I would say.
Eh,
And then,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Why is it a $6 million budget to shoot two people in an elevator? How are you going to spend $6 million?
Oh, that was not a rhetorical question.
No, it's not rhetorical at all. I'm just
Gotcha.
curious. Where are you going to spend $6 million with a two-person people in an elevator? I mean,
Right.
frankly, have you ever made a movie?
I've made a short, like one short film. That's it.
Okay. Zay can make this movie. I mean, I could make this movie for 600,000 with
Oh,
pretty good talent. Zay could make it for 60,000 easily.
all
A
right.
good-looking movie. You do not need $6 million for this movie.
Okay.
Okay. Now, unless you said to me that Andrew and Sophie, is that her name? Whatever, are
Yes.
going to be Leonardo DiCaprio and Julia Roberts. No, you say that, then I see where you're spending your $6 million. Okay, on
Gotcha.
lead actors. But otherwise, if you're using no-name talent, which, I think you should, this is not a $6 million movie. It's not even a $3 million movie. All right.
Wow.
It is a low budget indie film that you can make look really, really good for not a lot of money. So, again,
All
if I wasn't a seasoned producer, I wouldn't know that. Most investors might say, "Ooh, 6 million." I mean, I hear they're spending 60 million on films like this in Hollywood. But remember, you need to raise money. So the less you can ask for, the better chance you have of raising it, as long as it's realistic. All right, so number one, your budget's too high. Okay. But here's the challenge with this pitch. And again, I did not expect you to know any of this. You did what every single writer. Are you going to direct the movie too?
No, no.
Okay,
I
so you,
didn't
you
plan on.
wrote
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna, yeah.
Okay. Okay, actually, before I get into what I was going to say is, this feels to me like a faith-based film.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to start with that. You need to start and say this is a faith-based drama. All right?
Gotcha.
Because if you don't start with that, it's almost like you're trying to squeeze it in after. You need people need to know that they're looking at a faith-based film.
Okay.
Okay? Now, frankly, I think that elevates it. Not to use the elevator
No
as the
pun intended.
yeah, no pun intended. Okay? Why? Because it does explore all the themes you're talking about in a very poignant way, in a very interesting environment.
Thank
So
you.
I think you have something, and the faith-based world is a much easier world to market to because they're looking for this kind of stuff. So you should use that as an advantageous point and say there you're focusing on the faith-based world. Okay, so here's what the pitch is missing. All right. So artistically, the pitch is good. You had a very succinct log line. You didn't read your synopsis. You had some comparable films,
Huh?
which is really good. Here, just mute Jonah there. Zay. All right. So you had some comparable films, which was really good. That's helpful. Then you had a little bit about you, the filmmaker. That creates credibility. All right. Now you're not really the filmmaker. It would be good if you put a director in there too, or an actor to create a
Okay.
little bit more credibility, or seasoned producer or something like that. Like I'm not talking high level, just somebody else who's on the team because right now it's just a script. You're selling a script or writing thing. It's not really a team making a movie. It's a writer trying to finance a movie. But if you say
Right.
here's who I have in mind for the director or the lead actor or something like that, that would be helpful. All right. And you said the budget. Okay,
Mhm.
now as an investor, so now you're saying, are you interested? So here's if I'm an investor and you had your day in the room, I'm going to ask you the following questions and let's see if you can answer them, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Robert, looks good. Looks like an interesting project. How much do you need from us? Let's say
Well,
600,000, okay?
yes, yes.
So what is the investment scenario? Like, are you asking me to give you all 600? Can I buy invest 50,000? It's called investment scenario. Like, is it? And by the way, am I investing as an equity investor or debt? This is what we call the investment scenario.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming debt would be they shouldn't expect any return on investment,
Okay,
correct?
so you don't need to answer this stuff. I'm just telling you, okay? I'm going to go
Okay.
through it in a second, okay? So
Gotcha.
the first thing is how much do you want from each of your investors? Like, are you asking the whole amount from each person, or if it's $600,000, are we each like asking us each to put in $50,000? And how do you want us to put it in? Do you want us to lend the money to you, or do you want us to invest with you in equity? I'll go over that later on, okay? So that's number
Sure.
one. Number two, over what time period are you going to need the money, and when am I going to get the money back? Which means, what is your distribution plan? How do you plan on selling the movie? And based on how you plan on selling it, what is your forecasted revenue? So we call this a revenue forecast. How much money do you expect to earn with the money from your distribution and marketing plan over what period of time? We call that cash flow. So, how long do you want my money for? And how are you going to generate the money, the revenue to pay me back? And then after you pay me back, how much profit am I going to make? What is my return
Mm,
on investment going to be? All right.
gotcha.
This is the key part of the deck. I need to know, I know what I'm investing in now. I know the movie, but I don't know what the investment structure looks like. I don't know how much money I'm going to make. I don't know how much money you plan to generate with the film. I don't know the time frame. Because remember, the reason I'm a rich individual is because I make good investments. And you're asking me, I'm assuming you're going to make a good film. It sounds fun. I'm interested. Okay, nice themes. Or I like the faith-based market and everything like that. But I need to know, like when I invest in real estate, they tell me you're gonna invest in a condominium building. It's gonna take 4 years to build it, and then it's gonna take another 4 years to get the money back to you. So over 8 years, we're gonna return 3 times your money, and here's the cash flow based on rental or sales of the condominiums and that like that. If I invest in the stock market, you're gonna buy Nvidia stock. You're going to hold it for 6 months. It's going to go up 3 times. That's why you're going to make money. Everything has a scenario. I need to know your scenario. I need to know what you're asking me for and when I'm going to get the return on my investment and how much my forecasted return is. Now, you can't guarantee a return. You can
Right.
just forecast it. Nobody can guarantee a return other than, say, the federal government with, like with bonds. All right.
Mm.
And that's low return. But other than that, you can just forecast it. So we need to see your forecasted return and I need to believe it. Then I'm going to say to you, when you say to me, here's my distribution plan, here's my revenue forecast, I'm going to say, okay, that sounds like a good plan. Where'd you get it from? Who are you working with? Do you have a
Mm.
distributor? Who's working with you? Then maybe you say, well, this guy Jeff Deverett is on my team. He's my executive producer. He's distributed, 600 films. He's in distribution. He knows what he's doing. He's the one who gave me the forecast. He's going to be the one getting me the distribution deal. Then it's credible. Then that's credible. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next thing you need is what are the risks? What is the worst case scenario? And you need to be upfront with people and you need to say to them, this is what we hope is going to happen. Here's the return on investment that we hope the forecast, but it's possible that it won't happen. All right. Just like anything else, this is a high risk industry. And, a lot of films don't make money because they're not properly made, they're not properly distributed, not properly marketed, but we have that all
True.
covered. I just explained my distribution plan. So we're hoping that we're going to make money, but it's still 50% failure rate. So if it doesn't make money, then you're going to lose this amount of money. Here's the amount of money you're going to
Mm.
lose. And if you can't afford to lose it, don't invest. When you say that to somebody, they trust you because you're being honest with them. Now, here's the thing, folks. You're not going to believe this, but this is super, super important to remember. High net worth individuals actually don't invest in movies, they invest in filmmakers. They're they're betting on the jockey, not the horse. All right? They're betting on you, Robert, that you're a nice guy, that you're honest, that you know what you're doing, and you're going to be able to get this thing across the finish line. They don't know anything about films. They don't know what's a good film, what's a bad film. They don't know how films get made. They know nothing. They just, at this level of investment, they're investing on the person, not the project. All right. So you need to be super honest with them, super upfront, very transparent, and tell them this is a forecast, this is the risk, here's what could happen. If you can't afford to lose this, don't do it. All right. But here's why I think it's going to happen. And you could give them different scenarios too. You can say, in the best case scenario, or the worst case scenario is this, you're going to lose this amount of money. In a conservative scenario, you're going to make, 150% return on your investment, meaning your investment plus another 50%. In a good case scenario, you'll make 3 times your money. And then you can pitch them on something what we call the Hollywood dream, which is the Blair Witch Project. All right, which is we made a film for $50,000 and it did $100 million at the box office. Okay, that's what we call lightning in a bottle. That's the winning the lottery, the scenario. That's the one that all you guys want to hang your hats on. How do I win the lottery? So you can pitch them on that, but you can say the chances of winning the lottery are extremely low, but at least we have a chance because we have a film. So that's the Hollywood dream, we call that, okay? Then the final thing you're going to say is it's a lot sexier to invest in a movie than it is to invest in, say, real estate or the stock market. Because in a movie, we're going to give you things that the stock market can't give you. We're going to give you a credit, an IMDb credit. We're going to let you come on set to watch the movie being made. We're going to invite you to a premiere screening with your family and friends and acknowledge you. We're going to maybe get you a cameo in the movie. You're going to have fun making this. You're going to be a film producer. You're going to basically get the experience of filmmaking, which is fun and sexy, and it's cool. It's cool for you, for your family. So that's what makes it a little bit more fun. All right. But at the end of the day, the investment scenario is the key thing. And if it's realistic and it, and credible based on your distribution plan, then you're going to have a good chance of getting your money.
Thank you so very much for all of that information. And as a matter of fact, full disclosure, I do have a producer that is attached under a shopping agreement, but and we kind of, combine brains, every now and again. But I do need to sit down with her and basically zero down on this investment portion, the business, more of the business side of, the distribution and how much
Okay, well,
to
let's
ask for and
just
all that. Yeah.
you said something. I want you to explain it to everybody. What is a shopping agreement? What does that mean?
So basically, my producer is, she's shopping it around town. She's knocking on doors. She's meeting with people and, asking people if they would be interested in a story like Water to either produce or fund. That's basically what
Okay.
my person is doing.
What kind of people is she, whose door is she knocking on, and what kind of, are they high net worth individuals?
Yeah, some of them she's told me, about a few of the individuals that she's approached, like David Oyelowo and
I
his
don't know.
wife.
We don't have to throw names around,
Oh,
but
I'm
they have
sorry. Sorry
money.
about that. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is she using the deck that you just showed us?
Yes, she has been. Yes,
Okay. With no disrespect intended, she's wasting her time.
gotcha.
Nobody is going to take her seriously. Nobody with money. They're going to be polite to her, more polite than I'm being to you right now. They're going to say, "Oh, that's a great deck. You're a nice person, and we'll think about it." They're not going to think about it. They're going to walk. She's going to walk out the door. They're going to say, "You're kidding me? We don't even know what the heck of the investment is. We have no idea what our return on investment is." Like this was the worst pitch deck, but we didn't want to tell her that because we wanted to be polite. This is a waste of her time and their time to pitch them on that. That is not a pitch deck. That is a scenario that you use in film school to talk about what project you're hoping to make later on in life. You're missing all of the key stuff in the pitch deck. The scenario, if you're going to take anything out of the scenario, take the story out. Keep this, you need the investment scenario. People need to know how much they're going to make. Otherwise, it's not an investment. It was like, oh, that was nice to hear. Good luck with you. Have a good life. Never call on us again and don't waste our time.
That makes complete sense. Thank you so very much for that. And
Well,
you
thank you for
have,
pitching. You're a brave
yes, of
guy
course.
and it's a good pitch and it's going to get better.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay.
We don't have any of the other people pitching, so I'm gonna repitch mine that we
No,
made.
no, I got a better idea.
Okay.
Why don't I just show everybody a real pitch?
All right. Yeah, that's even better.
Okay. Can I just pull up a pitch and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just show you what a real pitch looks like?
There we go. That's even better.
Okay. So I'm going to show you. So I told you earlier on the call that I'm a consultant and people hire me to write their pitches for them, their investor pitch packages, but they also hire me to be on their projects because they need credibility because they have to sell the credibility of what they're pitching and they're not in distribution, so they don't have to sell that.
Your rates and your fees for your consulting.
Okay, so I do half hour and hour consultations, and a half hour is 150 and an hour is 250. And you can book me on my website. It's called Indie Film. Oh, by the way, I should mention this. So my website's called indiefilmcommunity.com. Now, you should go onto that website because there's tons and tons of free videos explaining all this. So I explain how to do a pitch deck. I explain how to get finance. I explain all this on my website. So indiefilmcommunity.com, and then you just go to the consulting button and you can book me, okay? More importantly, I also do a weekly podcast. This is what you should watch if you want to learn about indie filmmaking. It's called Indie Filmmaking: Truth and Reality. So write that down. I can put it in the chat if you want. Do you see everything I asked for?
There's some
Absolutely.
nods there. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys have any final questions, drop them in the chat. We can go over them. But other than that, thank you everybody who joined. It was great first time. Promoting an event like this. I'm gonna do more of these hopefully in the future with different topics, different hosts, and yeah. Ian, you
I
got
have
questions?
a
What's going on?
quick question, really quick. When you're pitching to investors, what do you say to those that might expect some type of creative control over the project?
Absolutely not. Thanks for coming, but why should you give them creative control? Are they movie makers?
Not
I mean,
expecting, yeah.
okay, if you're pitching to, James Cameron and he says, "Hey, I'll invest, but I want to make the movie," then yeah, sure. But if anything less than that, then no, no. Why would you give creative control up? You're the filmmaker. It's your vision. You have to protect it on behalf of all the investors. No, creative control is not on the table.
Thank you for answering.
Question from Ashley.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley. Come off mute.
Yeah. Um, this is this is kind of outside of like the whole pitching part of it and the whole business side of it. Or no, I guess not. But what do you think, or how do you think that independent filmmaking has been impacted before versus after the introduction of social media?
After the introduction of social media, I think it's easier because social media is a good way to market. So social media has made it a lot easier to connect with audiences. So before this, we used to have to say we used to have the paid advertising and it's expensive stuff. Now social media, we can get a lot of free messaging without having to pay for it. So it's better.
Christina Brown.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for giving this wealth of information. I'm in regards for me, I'm pretty much a kind of like a small indie producer, and I was wondering, besides thinking of creating a marketing slash distribution plan, should pro producers that are creating short films, should they be thinking about ROI?
On a short film? No,
Yeah, no.
no, no. There's no real market for short films. There's no revenue for
Okay.
it. So, you don't need to pitch that kind of detail for a short film.
Unless it's like a indie feature.
If it's a feature, yes, but not a
Okay,
short.
Unless you can find a way to make money on on a short,
But
and there are ways
really,
out
there's
there.
no market for shorts. Nobody pays for shorts.
Yeah,
okay.
it's,
Thank you.
you're rich and
I got
famous.
like 2 more minutes, say, and then I got to run. So,
All right, let's get through these two questions, Robert, and then Ian, and we'll wrap from there.
Yes, not to take up too much time, I just want to say thank you to both Xavier and Jeff. Thank you so much for being willing to do this. Um, Jeff, I just wanted to ask you a quick question in regards to, I know your consultation fees, but what about for the pitch deck itself? How much do you charge to, because I heard you say you would create pitch decks
yeah,
based on
that deck I showed you, I charged $4,000 US for. I mean, there's a lot of work in that deck. There's full revenue projection. I mean, there's a whole distribution plan that you didn't see either. So it's all that's the summary of it.
Thank you once again. I appreciate you.
So it sounds like a lot of money, but if you're raising $2 million, $4,000 you need a good deck for.
All right, Ian, we'll go through your question, and we got one question in the chat, and we'll wrap from there.
Sure. I just wanted to know, how does the pitch change, if at all, when you're pitching to sponsors or looking for product placement within the film?
First of all, product placement's not really a thing unless it's a big budget Hollywood film. So people talk about it, but it's not real. And I can go into a lot of detail of why. So, but sponsors, again, if you're trying to pitch a corporation, that type of thing, they're looking for exposure as opposed to return on investment. But you got to show them bigger audience numbers, and you'd have to. If I was looking to say, get a big sponsor in there, I'd say we're going to release it on YouTube, try to get 50 million views, and so your message goes to everybody, but we're not going to make a lot of money with it.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Thank you.
One more final question. Breaking down the cost of everything in the film, breaking down your budget. If you want to grace over that.
Grace over it. That's like 6 months of discussion, breaking down the cost of that. I mean, there's 600 line items in a budget. I mean, so the budget is, say you took my course, you know what budgeting's all about. You got to know how to budget properly. You got to know how to break it down and know what's in your budget. So I just did a summary budget there of, 2.2 million or 1.8 to make the movie. But within that 1.8, that's a 50-page budget.
You guys want a quick I would say one of the things we learned in this class is just reverse budgeting. You know, find out everything you need to pay for, whether that's equipment wise, crew and cast wise, and catering wise, location permits. Build all that stuff out. Find out what you need, and you can kind of build your budget forecast from there, and then you can get your real numbers once you start. You know.
Yeah, this is not an easy game, guys. There's a lot of moving parts here. So, and we had 2 hours and we covered a heck of a lot in 2 hours. But I mean, there's a lot more to cover. I mean, we could spend weeks, months, years talking about all this stuff. That's why just watch my podcast. I do a whole section, 2 or 3 sessions on budgeting. You want to hear about details on budgeting? Go on to my podcast. I think there's a thing, how to build a budget.
Maybe we'll do another one if it asked.
No, but I'm telling you right now, on Indie Filmmaking Truth and Reality, on my
Check it out.
podcast, I more or less discuss all these issues in detail.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Deverett,
everybody.
thank you for coming on. Thank you all. As I normally say, stay creative. Peace out.